The Middle East has been plagued with disaster after disaster, famine after famine, and war after war, with the Western world desperately trying to resolve these issues for the better of humanity. In fact, it had 6 presidential administrations trying to solve various issues within this region alone, with some to no avail. Although we are still very far from achieving a peaceful Middle East, President Trump announced today that the nations of Israel and the United Arab Emirates have concluded a peace agreement that opens up new ties between the nations, with Trump being the key negotiator. Now, many may be wondering if this is something that is significant to achieving peace, or if this is simple rhetoric that will eventually mean nothing. Though we'll have to wait and see if this new deal, formerly titled the Abraham Accord, goes through the official signatures, the two parties appear to be hopeful that they can achieve diplomatic relations. As of now, after 40 years of broken ties and massive tension between the two countries, each member appears to be satisfied with a new deal that will restore communication and create a strong partnership, something that is rarely seen in the Middle East between Israel and the Muslim world. Now to the basics of the formerly titled Abraham Accord. As a part of the deal, the two nations will now have the ability to formally communicate through the method of embassies and ambassadors, providing open dialogue for both governments to convey their differences, and provide a method of negotiation in order to solve further issues that may arise. The deal will also allow dialogue between the two countries on key issues, and the nations will be expected to meet and sign bilateral agreements on the topics of investment, tourism, direct flights, security, telecommunications, technology, energy, healthcare, culture, and the environment. It is expected that the combination of these two societies will spur economic growth, enhance technological innovation, and provide further stability to the Middle East. Though these features of the deal are very important for the two societies, one of the more important aspects of their partnership is Israel suspending its campaign to annex the West Bank, and instead focusing on establishing ties with the Arab and Muslim world. As you may have heard in the past few months, Israel released a plan that had the intention of annexing large parts of the West Bank, which would thereby trigger another war between two groups of people, Israel and Palestine. Back when this was occurring, the Palestinian president condemned the plan and stated that they will use any means necessary to prevent this from taking place. Hamas, the Iranian-backed group who has been occasionally launching rockets into Israel, also stated that they will have a strong backing for Palestine if this were to occur. Now, once the Abraham Accord is signed, Israel is therefore prevented from doing such actions against Palestine, thereby ensuring the prevention of another potential war in the Middle East. Moving on to the parties affected, President Trump exclaimed that he expects more Arab and Muslim countries will follow the United Arab Emirates' lead in achieving peace with Israel and in the Middle East, though it is unclear if there will be any other countries involved in the establishing of formal diplomatic ties. Overall, this boasts a great victory for the Trump administration as two nations, both staunch allies to the United States, establish a sort of alliance themselves. It is with this in mind that President Trump hopes to encourage further dialogue and understanding between two very different groups of people. This comes as President Trump and his son-in-law, Jared Kushner, have long been trying to find common ground between nations in order to achieve peace in the Middle East. Though they have reached a few snags in recent years, this deal for them represents what this administration can bring when it comes to achieving this goal for the region. For Israel, this brings another win to the nation and to Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who has exclaimed that his government has been receiving more formal communication and a foundation for a stronger relationship to other Muslim and Arab nations behind closed doors. Peace and security have always been strong objectives for the Israelis, and achieving this deal will further boost that goal and open up further dialogue between other nations in the region. The United Arab Emirates has long been trying to bring a sense of tolerance and understanding in the Middle East, despite having an autocratic leadership that often receives strong criticism globally. They have been trying to modernize their nation through the massive upgrades to their infrastructure and their acceptance of all cultures as a way to boost tourism and spur further economic growth. Through this new deal, they continue to expand on their policy of acceptance in order to wean away from their oil-based economy towards a more diverse future. Palestine is perhaps one of the parties who takes a win, but also takes a loss in the end. As mentioned before, the Abraham Accord will prevent Israel from annexing large amounts of Palestinian territory. However, the state has long been pushing for other countries to recognize it as a nation, and has been pushing for the Muslim world not to normalize relations with Israel until this takes effect. This deal provides a massive setback to Palestine and a potentially damaging one if other nations continue to normalize relations. It is with this in mind that Palestine will most likely bring opposition to this new alliance as a way to defend its right to being a free country. Yet as a changing world moves forward once again, two nations now have an open dialogue that may achieve the eventual goal of peace in a region that has been stoked with conflict for many decades. If you support our journalistic works and would like to see more from one of the more trustworthy news channels, follow the credible comment.